Breaking news tonight out of Baltimore County. A juvenile is hurt in a shooting in Lansdowne. A hearing today to talk about lawmakers' new juvenile crime plan. We take you to Annapolis with the heated debate. City Council President Nick Mosby will run for re-election. In an exclusive interview, Fox 45 presses Mosby on his tax problems and why voters should trust him.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
We are following several breaking news stories tonight. In Baltimore County, a young person has been shot and injured in Lansdowne. Police say it happened along Twin Circle Way just before 3:30 this afternoon. The victim's condition not known right now. In Howard County, 4 students are hurt after a school bus went off the roadway and rolled over in Columbia. Police say those students are 2 boys and 2 girls between the ages of 11 and 14. The good news, they are expected to be okay. They say 19 Hammond Middle School students were on the bus when it rolled onto its side. No one else, including the driver, was hurt. The cause of the crash is now under investigation. And Fox 45 News confirms Baltimore County police are investigating an alleged domestic assault involving Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Police say the alleged assault happened at his home in Owings Mills before the AFC Championship game. That's all we know about the case at this point. In a statement, a Ravens spokesperson says the team is aware of the allegation and the team takes these matters seriously but does not have any further comment. Flowers has not been charged with the crime. This is, of course, a developing story, so stay with Fox 45 News for updates both on air and online. A new juvenile crime plan taking center stage in Annapolis today. Lawmakers holding hours of heated debate on a slew of new measures aimed at addressing the uptick in young people falling victim to and committing crime. That meeting's still going on after hours of testimony. Fox 45 Rebecca Pryor is live now with more on what's still being talked about today. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, 6 hours later, that meeting still going on today. Strong and polarizing opinions coming to a head during a marathon meeting before the House Judiciary Committee. Some lawmakers arguing that this bill would be a step backwards from recently enacted juvenile reform laws. Others arguing it doesn't go far enough. Heavily debated over the last 6 straight hours of testimony is what crimes children under the age of 13 can and cannot be charged with. Under the current reform laws, only legally designated crimes of violence can be prosecuted. Under this new legislation, auto thefts, sexual assaults, firearm offenses, and animal abuse could also be prosecuted. In a heated exchange, Delegate Charlotte Crunchfield claiming harsher consequences would do more harm than good, but Delegate Luke Clippinger defending the change that his bill would bring.
I feel like to some degree it is erasing all of, not necessarily all, but a lot of the good work that was done previously. I mean, we made a clear effort to eliminate the youngest children from being exposed to the juvenile justice system. And now you have gone ahead and brought them back into the system in a new and different way.
These are not felonies. These are possession of a firearm, possession of a ghost gun, possession of a stolen firearm, possession of a gun that was purchased in a straw purchase. These are the kinds of crimes where if you have a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old, that we as a state, I believe, would look at those cases, those alleged cases, and say, what on earth is going on?
Now, another major point of contention stems from the data driving this proposal. Lawmakers are questioning why DJS claims juvenile crime is on the decline, while police and prosecutors say the opposite. Today's state's attorneys from Baltimore City, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County giving their reasoning for the discrepancy, blaming a breakdown in communication.
Both things can be true. If you want to look at overall numbers and say there's less kids getting arrested, I'm going to tell you in Montgomery County that might actually be true. But when it comes to violent crime and the crimes that people care about, the numbers are exploding.
In Baltimore City, we have a juvenile holding facility that the officers will go and take, it's like regular adult jail, so to speak. And the officer may take the juvenile there, DJS will be there, and they'll say, okay, we're not going to proceed. That officer may take that child back to their parents. So we would never know anything about this. I think one of the things that this bill does is says, hey, let's have this oversight committee to ensure that everybody is on the same page. I think that helps tremendously.
Again, 6 hours later, this hearing continues, and on top of that, lawmakers already scheduled to do it all over again tomorrow in the Senate. Reporting live in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. City Council President Nick Mosby sits down with Fox 45 News for an exclusive interview talking about his financial problems for the first time since his controversial testimony. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost asked him about his tax problems in the past, his lies about the lien, and why he's asking voters to trust him now.
In his City Council President office, Nick Mosby agreeing to talk about his testimony during his ex-wife's federal mortgage fraud trial.
It was my colleague who asked about the tax lien that was on your property. You said that it had been taken care of, but that was a lie.
Yeah.
Why did you lie to the public?
Well, at the time, I still didn't realize that there was a formal tax lien. I mean, it's a lot of complications with the way it was actually entered, but it was a personal matter, and I should have addressed it as a personal matter. So I regret that, and I think I've said that, and I'll constantly say that. So it's an opportunity for me to grow and learn from that.
You remember when I brought you a copy of the tax lien? Everyone has seen the video.
Correct.
Did you believe that that was real, or did you believe that I was lying when I had a copy of it that day?
So that was after I was on a radio show.
Yep.
Where a reporter, who was the only reporter, I guess, in town who had it, put it out on Twitter. And that sequence of events happened after that.
But you told me that you didn't deny the existence of a tax lien that day.
Again, I still didn't know there was a tax lien other than from that reporter. So I guess the concern was I didn't know how real what he had put out there or how he got it. But several competent attorneys, tax attorneys, couldn't find it.
We found the tax lien at the courthouse, where it was publicly available. During his testimony, federal prosecutors alleged Mosby claimed charitable donations that weren't real. Prosecutors say in 2014, Nick Mosby claimed $21,000 donated to charity. The same year, he was $18,000 behind on mortgage payments and his car was repossessed. In 2015, prosecutors say $15,000 was claimed as a charitable donation when he was nearly $10,000 behind on his mortgage and tens of thousands of dollars behind in taxes.
Did you give the 20-some thousand dollars to charities over the years when the federal government says you didn't?
Taxes are a personal matter. I use a paid professional tax preparer to do my taxes. I'm not a tax preparer, so I've been open and honest throughout this entire process. That information has been with the federal government for several years now. This was the first time that I've heard that, like you heard it. But again, I was open and honest in court, and I'll continue to be open and honest about the situation.
If you're open and honest about it, tell the people of Baltimore, did you donate that money to charity or not?
So charitable donations is more than just donations, but what I will say is I used a paid professional tax preparer that I paid to do my taxes and provide the information, and it's ultimately what came out of it.
And as president of the City Council,
Mosby says one of his biggest accomplishments during his first term as council president centers around professionalizing the council.
How can you professionalize the city office when your personal life is the way it is?
So I think that voters are human, and they know that we all have challenges. They know that we all make mistakes. I was 33, 34 years old at the time, really aggressively going after something that was a dream of mine, to become mayor of Baltimore.
Is that still your dream?
It's my dream to serve the citizens of Baltimore, but at the time, to really go after and support the citizens of Baltimore in the way that I thought was best. And it created some financial challenges for me and really some consequences that I never intended.
Mosby is falling behind in fundraising for his re-election efforts. The latest reports show he has just over $180,000 in his campaign coffers. Zeke Cohen, seeking to unseat him, has pulled in more than $530,000. And Shannon Sneed, another candidate, has $169,000 in the bank.
They can raise all the money in the world that they want. They don't have the legislative record that I have. They haven't come and shown up in the way that I've constantly shown up for a city that I love. They're not from Baltimore. They're not by Baltimore. I am. And I think voters really see that and see through that.
They also didn't get on those stand under oath and admit to lying to the public.
Correct. So that takes a lot because you don't have to. I didn't plead the fifth. I got on stand. I was a man of what happened 10 years ago. I talked about it. And I think that was my duty. I've been responsive and transparent throughout that entire process. But I did not have to be. I did that because it was the right thing to do.
Can the voters trust that you won't lie to them again?
I think the voters do trust that and know who I am. They know my integrity. They know my character.
In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Senators taking on the high cost of prescription drugs. I'm Atrell Nashar in Capitol Hill with how pharma is fighting back and what it all means for what you pay at the pharmacy.
Your weekend's going to be a mixture of good and bad. Some good are some warmer temperatures as we move into your Friday and Saturday. However, we're going to be tracking our chances for rain. We could have this a little bit heavier as we move into early next week. We're going to talk about that, give you the details coming up.
The Justice Department says President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials, but that no criminal charges are warranted. Special counsel Robert Hur launched the year-long investigation after materials from Biden's time as vice president were found at his Delaware home and his private office in D.C. One key difference made Hur decide not to prosecute the president. Biden believed he was allowed to keep the documents and turn them over to investigators when asked. Well, CEOs of the three biggest pharmaceutical companies appeared on Capitol Hill today to explain why Americans pay so much more for prescription drugs than patients in other countries. Sinclair national correspondent Atra El-Nashar joins us live from Capitol Hill. And Atra, the difference is so large. What can lawmakers do about this?
Yeah, it's so large that it makes these drugs out of reach for far too many Americans. And there is no shortage of ideas for bringing down drug costs, from patent reform to making the field more competitive, requiring more transparency so the public knows when and by how much companies raise costs. But actually passing laws to do that is a battle Congress is losing. For too many Americans, the drugs prescribed to them by their doctor are out of reach.
The cost of prescription drugs, it's like a bag of heavy rocks.
The CEOs of Merck, Johnson & Johnson, and Bristol-Myers Squibb appearing before senators Thursday to defend their prices and why Americans pay so much more than other wealthy nations for the same drugs.
Johnson & Johnson charges Americans with arthritis $79,000 for Stelara, when that same exact product can be purchased for just $20,000 in Canada.
Do you agree that the United States is paying for innovation for the rest of the world?
Yeah, that seems pretty much it.
According to CDC research published last summer, more than 8% of adults 18 to 64 skipped their necessary prescribed medication because of the cost. Those in fair or poor health and those with disabilities were about 3 times more likely to go without.
We're focusing on prices today, but we also need to think about innovation as a way to fix the problem.
Lawmakers of both parties grilling the CEOs for spending more on stock buybacks and dividends than developing new drugs. What the solution is, that's where Congress is split. What do you say to your constituents who cannot afford their prescription drugs?
I totally agree with that. But the one thing that we got to understand, it takes a lot of money to come up with new drugs.
We need to ramp up the number of drugs that are being negotiated. We need to make sure that Medicare is getting a fair price.
Drug makers blame pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, who serve as intermediaries between insurance, pharmacies, and pharmaceutical companies, calling them out in ads like this.
I don't make as much money off this one. Hope you feel better.
Both sides spent tens of millions of dollars last year lobbying Congress, according to public filings.
I think the healthcare lobbies are the strongest back home in our own states and out here in D.C.
Now, that lobbying, Mary, has done little to help the 1 in 4 Americans who, according to Kaiser Family Foundation, say it's difficult to afford their medication.
All right, Dr. Al-Nashar reporting live for us on this difficult issue from D.C. Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at your triple cast. So far, it has been a quiet evening. We do have those coastal flood advisories in effect. They're really not causing too much of an issue. We've been seeing this night after night as we just see some water inundation in those places that typically flood. But either way, good looking views out there, and it is much more comfortable. So good evening, everyone. And as we head into the next few days, we've got a lot of weather makers coming. Luckily, they're not going to arrive until a little bit later. The ones that we have for this weekend are pretty small by comparison, but let's take you through it anyway. Temperatures outside dropping to the 40s now. We are in the 50s already today. Tomorrow, I think we're going to be up near 60 degrees. Any shower activity will be very light on Friday if we see anything. I don't think we're going to have it. I think we're going to be pretty dry as we make it to the afternoon. Mid 60s on the table, perhaps low 60s if you don't make it there. But we do have a chance for some rainfall as we move through Saturday. This is showing it moving through as early as Saturday morning. Don't take the time exactly at face value because this could shift all over the place throughout your day. But either way, you got to plan for some rainfall to be around, as we're going to see a storm system move through to bring that. But otherwise, we could easily still see temperatures reaching the 60s. This is showing 70 degrees. That may be a little bullish, but at the same time, at least it's going to be warmer regardless. So keep the rain gear handy on Saturday just in case. But this is that front that's going to be bringing in the cloud cover, and then eventually that storm system that I showed you will make its way through the area, bringing us a brief chance for some rainfall as we move through Saturday, and it shouldn't last all day long. It will be not a washout weekend. That's the good things. All right, so going into early next week, then things are really changing. A much bigger system, a much more impactful system is going to be likely headed our way, making its entrance as we move into, say, late Monday, early Tuesday. This is showing quite a bit of rainfall, likely going to get windy. Depending on where this thing tracks, we could see the potential for some snow to mix in with it. Some of the data is showing that, but we're not completely in full agreement with this yet. So we're going to watch and see if there's some consistency to the messaging. But so far, we are only saying there is a possibility. So here are the takeaways. High confidence that that late Monday, Tuesday storm system will arrive, and we're pretty confident it's going to bring at least rainy to windy conditions. Some wet snowflakes are still a possibility, but that's very low confidence right now, and even more confidence lower than that it could be accumulating snow. So in the meantime, we're just going to keep it where we're seeing it for now. And specifics and adjustments to that forecast are likely. All right, so the weekend wrap, there it is, 62 degrees, 64 by Saturday, 57 by Sunday. We got your 10-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
That's the sound of avalanche control in the Wasatch Mountains near Park City, Utah. The Sierra Nevada mountains are also covered by plenty of snow, but Lake Tahoe looks a little too rough for boating. There's so much rime ice in Green Bay, it looks like it snowed. And very specific weather conditions are needed to get the hoarfrost that formed on this American flag.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
I'm Kayla Gaskins outside the Supreme Court. Coming up, we'll unpack a hearing that happened today, and it could have a major impact on the 2024 presidential election.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments for and against the ability of individual states to pull Donald Trump from their presidential election ballots. Colorado already removed the former president after the state's high court disqualified him from running, ruling he violated the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. Sinclair's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court.
A decision made by the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court could significantly shape the 2024 presidential election. On Thursday, both sides coming under heavy questioning from the justices, most of them, even the liberal justices on the court, expressing skepticism over Colorado's ruling to remove Trump from the state's Republican primary ballot.
Like, what's a state doing deciding who other citizens get to vote for president?
The justices asked all the hard questions and raised all the good arguments. The lawyers were utterly irrelevant in this case.
Trump briefly weighing in after the arguments.
Well, I'm a believer in our country, and I'm a believer in the Supreme Court.
I listened today, and I thought our arguments were very, very strong.
A big questions attorneys want answered. Was January 6th an insurrection? And does the former president bear responsibility for it?
We are only here because Donald Trump decided to engage in insurrection instead of accepting his loss.
On Capitol Hill, Trump loyalist Representative Matt Gaetz leading a group of more than 60 Republicans introducing a resolution this week to affirm Trump did not engage in an insurrection.
It's not the job of the states, and especially not the job of some bureaucrats in Colorado, to make this assessment and interfere with the rights of voters.
Another question for SCOTUS: does Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the insurrection clause, apply to presidents? If the court rules against Trump, he'll stay off the ballot in Colorado, Maine, and likely a windfall of other left-leaning states.
I don't think that any of the justices were buying what Colorado was trying to sell. I think they're going to issue an opinion quickly, probably by the end of the month.
Colorado is pushing the Supreme Court to make a decision by February 11th because the state mails out their primary ballots on February 12th. That's unlikely to happen. The next deadline would be March 5th, Super Tuesday, when Colorado and Maine hold their primaries, or at the end of June when the Supreme Court wraps up this term. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
All right, let's take a distant look. The 10-day forecast is finally here, and now we can talk about what is coming, beyond just the 7. First of all, we got to enjoy at least a little bit of the first few. 64 degrees by Saturday. Some rain showers will be possible, but more likely we'll see that on Monday and Tuesday. Later on down the road, it looks like we're going to be cooler than average with some more clouds and possibly rain into the following weekend.
Gerard, thank you. Well, finally tonight, set sail this Valentine's Day with a romantic dinner on the water. Meteorologist Amy Aronson takes us aboard the Majesty.
Yeah, this is something fun and different, and we've got the sunshine helping us out here this morning, making for a beautiful morning to set sail. I'm here with Marcus Dutton, who's telling us all about the fun festivities. You have your Valentine's Day tie on. You are ready for the holiday next week. Why not come and enjoy it on the water?
Absolutely. Love is in the air. Not a better time to be on the water. We're doing lunch, brunch, dinner cruises all weekend long, this weekend into next weekend. Who can forget our 14th dinner cruise? It's an amazing time to be on the water. We always have many proposals, engagements, and then look at the vessel. What not a better place to have a wedding on board, an anniversary party, or even just an engagement party. So great time to be out on the water, especially this time of the year.
Yeah, I know the folks probably can't see it. We're on the upper level deck, but if you take a peek down, I want to show you what you see down there. You actually see a dance floor. So my first thought was, yeah, this like screams wedding venue. And of course, you guys have all the great food and drinks for the weekend, everything Valentine's Day themed. What are we looking at here on the table?
So we've got our Luthers dessert here. It's a nice chocolate lava cake with a beautiful strawberry compote, a little bit of whipped cream, some fresh mint, some caramel, and we're tying that with our Baltimore Sunset cocktail. It's a great pairing, again, using some of that strawberry puree, so keeping those same flavors together.
Perfect. Awesome. It actually looked like the sunrise we saw here earlier this morning, too. If you want more information on spending Valentine's Day with City Cruises, head over to our website, foxbaltimore.com/newslinks.
And that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feuds next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.